Okay. Okay. Reification, I think Marx first talked about this, but ever since it's become a very popular term in political discourse. Reification refers to when we take an animate subject, if you like, a human being, or even an animal to effect, and we behave towards it as if it was an object. So reification happens, for example, when human beings, when labor is called to function professionally, to function in its everyday working as an object, and when it's treated, for example, by its employers as an object rather than a subject. Okay, so every time we have an objectification of a human being, we call that reification. And what happens in the case of security, and what has certainly happened in the case of Greece, is that the polity or the collectivity of the people living in this country, in some sense, have been reified, have been objectified into the technical notion of the population. So we often talk about, for example, how the population is doing. We use statistics, we use the polls, and we measure. Is the population happy with its policy objectives? Is the population better off with certain practices at the level of economic policy making? We refer to the population as if it's something different than the people constituting the polity. So you can very often find many poll reports stating that the population is doing better in Greece, or the population enjoys a better degree of economic returns. However, if you talk to people, to the everyday people around you, you'll find out that very often they have a much different view. And this is because the population is an instrumental notion. And the population does not have a one-to-one correspondence with the, if you like, with the people, we can put it this way, with the collectivity, with a sum of individuals comprising a particular community. So, in this sense, the people serve only instrumentally to the self-perpetuation of a system that does not precisely represent them. Very often, for example, nowadays we say that we're going to introduce certain measures in Greece because it's going to be better for the population. But the process through which these measures are going to take place and are going to function are going to be ones that may undermine the individual prosperity of the citizens. So this is a clear case where you have a contrast, or if you like, a trade-off between individuals and population. So, what are the implications of turning contemporary Greek politics into an issue of numbers, economic indicators, and an issue, if you like, of economic management? I think the first and most evident one is that this kind of approach subjugates values to technocratic considerations of statistics, of economic performance, and it undermines the very important normative, meaningful elements of political life, without which no polity can survive, no individual can survive. Secondly, I think that regarding the issue of current public perceptions about what the nature of political life is, security also involves another precaution, is that it has ceased to be anthropocentric. Okay, so by focusing very much on numerical, economical specialization of policy agendas, by focusing too much on what the economy does, we forget to look at what the humans comprising the polity do. So this is a clear case of turning away from humanism, which essentially was the approach of ancient Greeks to politics, towards technocracy, which has as its unit of analysis not the human being per se, but rather some other domain of collective activities, such as economics. And I think finally, this has a further precaution, which is that by eroding the normative structures of the society, we also, in Greece, have experienced the loss of meaningfulness of everyday life. So everyday life does no longer become very easily enlightened by by ideals, by ideas that serve to make the human life viotos, as Socrates used to say, without some insurgency of meaningfulness, without considering human prosperity and spiritual eudaimonia of the people, we risk losing the meaning of everyday life. And certainly that might seem very pessimistic. One may say, okay, right, so the situation has advanced to that level in Greece, that how can we go back? How can we transform a regime of security that has developed, that is very well rooted in government policy making and in the very perception of the political people have for over 25, I think, 30 years now? Well, I think that the solution can be very, very easy. And although it may be easy and simple, I think it may be quite effective. By reconsidering a return to humanism, that is to Hellenism, and by reconstructing the way we speak about politics, the way we orient our discourse in our everyday discussions, in the way we write about things on the internet, on newspapers, we can suggest a return to ethics, what is precisely missing right now in Greek society. And what do I mean about ethics? I don't refer to this moralistic medieval discourse of good and bad according to a divine authority. When we say ethics in ancient Greece, we refer to all those practices that serve to enhance a person's character and make him a better person. So what we need to do in Greece right now is to reorient our political thinking towards categories such as eudaimonia, individual and collective happiness, education for the sake of education, and above all, obviously, the attainment of harmony and health, both at an individual but also a collective level. Well, it's not enough that people who write or people who talk in between them suggest it should change in their discourse, but it would also be quite important that the government started to structure its own discourse and its own policy making based on certain ideas and values that are not economic. Economics, as Mr. Zeros very well said at the beginning, is a nothing without our perception of it and the perception of our place in the world. So the economic situation in Greece, and I totally believe this, and I totally vouch for what she said, is something that will very easily change should people change their perception of what is important in everyday political life. And the political, as you saw in this complicated diagram I showed earlier, cannot be departed by the individual. The individual is inherently political, and every thought we make, every feeling we have, every discussion we make with people around us is in fact a political act. And through these small micro acts of everyday life, we influence the way our world, and hence the social world, is structured. So by reorienting our focus and our political thinking, our political vocabulary, again towards concepts that have to do with human values, with the human soul, with the attainment of certain ideals in our life, I think will be the way of remedying the economic situation in Greece. And what a better source we can have for this than to return to certain classical ideas of Hellenism that have to do with eudaimonia, as we saw earlier, and have to do with concepts such as harmony that provide not only the cornerstone of this particular tradition from a philosophical point of view, but I think that provide the cornerstone of every healthy individual and every healthy society. So, yeah, I'm going to leave you to that for now, and I think that I'll open the floor to questions, because perhaps there's been a bit too much concept-wise. Thank you.